Hey, what's going on, guys? It's time for another chapter of Berserk, and this is going to be 378. And in this one, Raksas is revealed. The tragedy begins. And this is a very unique and interesting cover for this chapter. I really like this one. You got Slan facing off against Raksas, and it's got this nice brown hue to it. You know, darker and lighter shades of brown. It's very nice, very interesting and unique, and it just looks very artistic. I really like this one. And I'm a big fan that Studio Gaga has made the decision to have a colored page for each chapter like this. It really gives the chapter almost its own character, its own unique vibe. Now, as a brief recap, in the previous chapter, the Northern Clansman was slumping over in pain, and we saw Raksas being expelled from his body. Now we're seeing the aftermath of that, and Daiba is telling everyone to stay clear of him. And as he fully emerges, he's up in the air, he's got his little tentacle-like appendages sticking out, and he just looks completely monstrous and scary at the same time, and all the clansmen are just absolutely terrified out of their mind. Interesting little detail here, Raksas has a hook-like knife sticking out of one of his appendages. I remember when he was fighting Slat in a previous chapter, it was probably chapter 342 or so, he had a spike, but this is a little bit different. This one's kind of cool. Now the various Kushans are first the exiled Bakiraka, and now one of the Falcon of Light's apostles, an assassin? And here's the really interesting thing about this chapter. When Raksas hears this, he's actually confused. He says to himself, what am I? He looks around and he's like, these are the Kushans. This is not the Falcon City. So it seems like since he fought Rickert and Daiba, he's had some sort of amnesia. He seems to have forgotten where he is or even who he is at this point. So what the heck has been going on in the interim with Raksas? How did he get to this land, and how the heck did he end up in that guy's body? Did he go in there unconsciously, or... That's kind of interesting. Now there's a lot of questions we gotta think about. He looks over at Slat and he's like, the young master. I remember now, back then. And we see an image of Rickert shooting that rocket launcher, so it seems like Raksas has finally remembered what has happened. Now, he seems pretty surprised that he's still alive right now. That's kind of interesting if you think about it. A rocket launcher designed by a human has the potential of killing an apostle. I mean, I guess it didn't happen, so we don't know if it's actually true or not, but the fact that Raksas is surprised that he's still alive means that it might have had the potential of killing him. So this kind of opens up the possibility of maybe Rickert developing some invention that can take down more of the apostles. Maybe he makes some modifications and he can take down a guy like Locus or Irvine. I mean, who knows? Now, Raksas decides to go on the offensive. However, some of Salat's disguised soldiers come into the rescue. And Daiba confirms this by saying that the young master's followers were disguised as servants. And we can see by the various knives on Raksas' appendages that they got cut in half. So these soldiers are actually pretty well trained. Now, the Emperor of the Kushan Empire decides to run away since there's really not much that he can do right now and he doesn't want to die. Slat then prepares himself for another battle with Raksas, as he tells Raksas to prepare himself. Now, even though they have Raksas outnumbered, Daiba warns him that an apostle is nothing to be trifled with. For example, one apostle could take down literally thousands of men at once. So they can't be careless here, they have to be diligent in trying to take him down. Now, Raksas says something pretty interesting right here. Concealing his troops, that's the young master I know. Now, we know that Raksas used to be a previous member of the Bakiraka at one point. We learned this in a previous chapter. I'm starting to wonder if Slat maybe was the student of Raksas. You know, Raksas played the part of elder and teacher, and eventually, he decided to become an apostle, and that's the reason that he got kicked out of the clan. And maybe that's why Slat has such vitriol for Raksas, because he betrayed the Bakiraka, he betrayed the clan. Raksas then pulls out more knives and puts them all down into the ground and makes some sort of I don't know what exactly is happening here. It's kind of interesting. It looks like a wave of energy or something. And even Daiba is very shocked by this. He's like, what is this prana? It couldn't be. The astral gates. Now, this is pivotal right here. I mean, anytime you see this image in Berserk, your alarm bell should be going off. This means that the God Hand is coming. Anytime we see this tornado-like structure coming down to the earth, we know that the God Hand is coming. We saw this with the Count in the Black Swordsman arc. We saw this with Griffith during the eclipse. Someone from the God Hand is coming. Now, I feel like they gave us a clue as to who, and I don't think it's going to be everyone. I don't think it's going to be all 5 because a Bailet did not get activated right now. If a Bailet was activated, then all 5 would come per the usual ritual. However, with this manifesting without a Bailet activating is telling me something very important. We know that with Fantasia, the physical and astral realms are converging with one another. They're overlapping with one another. Has it occurred where they've overlapped so much that the God Hand can finally take physical form whenever they please? Previously, they could only do so when a Bailet was activated and the Dragon Path opened up. But remember when Shirka performed her rite on the boat? She used her luminous body to go to the World Spiral Tree. And she even said to herself, this is the Dragon Path. So with the World Spiral Tree being more potent, more powerful than ever before, that must mean that the God Hand can manifest themselves. And we know this because when Fantasia happened, I think it was like chapter 306, we saw images of the God Hand manifesting in the physical realm in some fashion. We weren't really sure how it was happening, but we knew it was becoming a thing. So what I think is about to happen right here is that we're going to see a God Hand member in the land of the Kushans, and this is going to be potentially catastrophic. I mean, this will not be good for the land of the Kushans. This is going to end very badly. We then see in the streets like a black ooze going through the various cobblestones, and from the black ooze, monsters are emerging. And what kind of monsters do you ask? Trolls. Now, we've seen trolls numerous times throughout Berserk, but the one of note happened in Enoch Village and Quithoth. And that's going to be very pivotal for what we're about to talk about in a little bit here. Now, the trolls start killing and brutalizing the various citizens of the Kushan Empire. You know, they're trolls, they do what they do, and this is just going to be a massacre. We then see Farnese making her way to the negative, radiating emotions. She needs to do this because Master Shirka is still performing her rites and she cannot be disturbed. However, when Farnese sees the trolls for herself, she becomes absolutely terrified. She stopped in her tracks. So even with her new adeptness in magic, she still has fears and trepidations. She still hasn't overcome that fear of facing off against the trolls. But luckily for her, Serpico is still there to protect her, as he uses his Sylph blade to knock back the trolls. Farnese then says something very pivotal. The Quithoth domain is manifesting once again. Now, if Quithoth is manifesting in the physical realm, that means only one thing. Slan is the God Hand member that is going to be coming up right now. She is the one descending from the tornado. She is the one summoning all these trolls in the Kushan Empire. And we know what happened with Guts and Slan inside of Quithoth. Slan tried to convince Guts to use the Bailet. She teased him. She's like, why not make a sacrifice like he did? Remember, Guts doesn't have his sword. He doesn't have his berserker armor. He doesn't have his mechanical arm. And he also just lost a battle to Griffith in which he wasn't able to touch him. So I could very well see Slan teasing Guts and saying, don't you want that power? Don't you want the potential to beat him? And you may be saying to yourself, why would a fellow God Hand member want one of its own dead? While I think they do hold some allegiance to each other, I don't think they would be adverse to killing one another. Slan has taken a particular interest in Guts, and I wouldn't be surprised if she chose Guts over Griffith. I mean, the fact that she was teasing him to make a sacrifice in Quithoth when she knows that Guts wants to kill Griffith, i.e. Femto, already means that she doesn't really care what happens to Femto. She just revels in sadistic pleasure and bloodshed, so to her it doesn't really make a difference. The fact that Guts is a harbinger of death and pain just arouses her. So, you know, I mean that's it. That it is what it is, you know? But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Farnese then tells Serpico that the heart of Quathoth is inside the castle. Now Daiba says that this is beyond the abilities of a dumb apostle. The power to summon a mass of demons of this magnitude must be. It must be. But he doesn't finish his statement. I think it's gotta be a God-hand member. I think it's gotta be Slan. I mean, who else could do this? Who else has the power to pull this off? We then see Rickards fighting off the various trolls. We then see Isidro and Puck, and we see Morta in a very unfamiliar situation. She has never been in a situation where it's fight for your life. And she looks scared beyond belief right now, which is very uncharacteristic of her. Salat then notices that the magical beasts are going awry right now. They're getting very upset. And as they start flinging the Kushan warriors around, Raksas decides it's time for a one-on-one battle with Salat. The two converge upon each other, and it looks like it's going to be an epic exchange. And then to end the chapter, we go over to Guts in his prison cell, and he looks very tired and out of it. He's even sweating on his face. So what the heck is going on with Guts right now? It makes me wonder that the pained face that we saw in the previous chapter was not caused by Raksas at all. It was in fact caused by the God-hand member who is now manifesting in the land of the Kushans, who I believe to be Slan. And we saw the power that Slan had over Guts and Quathoth. She basically used him like a plaything. And I have a feeling that things are going to get really bad right now. We're going to see a lot of people die in the land of the Kushans. I don't know if we're going to see any pivotal characters die. That remains to be seen. But Guts is probably going to be faced with an interesting choice. We already know that the Beast of Darkness teased him on the boat to sacrifice everything, his flesh, his bone, his blood, his very soul, for more power. And I think that opportunity is going to come up right now. We know Guts is a struggler. We know he doesn't want to accept that power. He doesn't want to be a demon, but he just lost everything. He lost Casca. He lost that battle against Griffith without doing anything to him, and he lost his faith in his sword. With him having nothing, and with him being chained to a wall in prison, kind of similar to the fact that Griffith was chained in prison and lost everything, he's going to be faced with a choice that could change his life forever. But that's a lot of speculation on my part. I might be completely wrong about this. Maybe it's not Slan coming, maybe it's something else, but I feel pretty confident about that. But anyway, tell me what you guys saw of this chapter, guys. I thought this was amazing. I got really hyped up for this one, and I can't wait for the next one. So subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.